Hello there. Welcome in to a Monday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online, or listening through the radio station app of choice. Of course, we are on Extra Sports 1300 and also 740 KVOR. So any of those on terrestrial or streaming platforms work just dandy. A little bit of a mess today. Sorry about that. All right, let's get going. A veritable cornucopia of sports topics await you. And of course, I would love to get your thoughts at 719-247-1313. You could call or text into the show via that number. If you think that Saturday's game was decided because Brandon Cooks did or did not catch the ball, I think you're missing the point of Saturday. I really do. Because the Bills lost the game before that, or they did things to help themselves lose the game before that. It wasn't about the Brandon Cooks play. It really wasn't. And you know who agrees with me? The Buffalo Bills. And that's why they fired Sean McDermott. The fact of the matter is the Buffalo Bills came into that game as a bad matchup for the Denver Broncos. Their running game was going to and did ultimately give the Broncos a lot of problems. They had the best player on the field, or so we thought, in Josh Allen. And their defensive scheme was one set up to make Bo Nix struggle. And you saw certainly the first thing and the last thing quite a bit throughout that game. But the fact of the matter is the Buffalo Bills were a mess. They were a mess in that football game. You turn over 5 times, and yeah, we could go and legislate each one. You had 5 turnovers. And Sean Payne talked about leading up to the game how the one constant in Bills' losses is that they turn the ball over. That was the one way that you were going to lose that football game, and you did it 5 times. And so now you don't have the, oh, well, it's just Patrick Mahomes. It's not Patrick Mahomes anymore. You are facing a middle-of-the-road quarterback in Bo Nix, who you were able to hold down for most of the game, I would say. And you did the absolute last thing you could possibly do. Besides turn it over, you gave the Broncos a chance in the fourth quarter. That was the Broncos' hope. If they could just get to the fourth quarter, they'd feel pretty good about their chances. And the Buffalo Bills had numerous opportunities before that to put the Broncos away. So I'm going to talk about the play momentarily, but that's not what decided the football game. And also I have to say, in terms of the Buffalo Bills, like, how many rules does the NFL have to change to get you to a Super Bowl? They already changed the overtime rules because of the Bills, because everyone thought it was so unfair that the Kansas City Chiefs were able to go down the field, score, and end the game. So they changed those. By the way, those new overtime rules were in effect, and the Bills did not take advantage of them. So now we have to change the Calvin Johnson rule too? If you're a Bills fan, I get it. You're going to channel your energy towards the officiating and towards that play with Brandon Cooks, and I understand it. But you should be sick to your stomach that you had every opportunity to win that game and did everything you could to lose it. And that's why Sean McDermott was fired today. Not because this is a theme. This is the Sean McDermott era. It's been one playoff exit after another in which coaching is questioned, preparedness is questioned. The less buttoned up team in these games is the Buffalo Bills. So Sean McDermott wasn't fired as a knee-jerk reaction to Saturday. He was fired because this has been the core of his tenure as Bills head coach. This is accumulation of years and why he got fired today. Now, why Brandon Beane isn't following him out the door, I don't know. He should be, as this roster has hemorrhaged talent. But the turnovers and the penalty, like after the Brandon Cooks play, it looked like the Bills imploded. Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with the pass interference call that Cortland Sutton earned. I didn't think that was pass interference. But guess what? The Broncos could have accepted the roughing the passer on Joey Bosa. And what was Joey Bosa doing on that play? So before the Brandon Cooks play and after the Brandon Cooks play, there were a lot of things that were an indictment of Sean McDermott and what this Buffalo Bills team has been when it matters the most. So to say that they lost the game because of a blown call, and it's the rule. It's just wrong. There were plenty of other opportunities for the Buffalo Bills to win that football game, and they didn't. So with that being said, I wish that the Brandon Cooks catch was a catch. Not because that I wanted the Bills to win or anything like that. Like, I don't like the Calvin Johnson rule. I don't like it. I wish that catches were like, who is that Supreme Court justice back in 1964? You remember the one who said, I know it when I see it, when it was that obscenity case. I know it when I see it. That's what I wish the catch rule was. That looked to me in lifetime like Brandon Cooks caught the ball, was down, and then Jaquan McMillan ripped it away from him. That's what it looked like to me. And looking at the replay, I felt more emboldened in my stance. But that's not the rule. The rule is you got to survive the ground. So if this is an opportunity for us to burn down the entire video replay review system, I'm here for it. Or if we're going to change the Calvin Johnson rule, I'm all about it. I wish it was different. I wish you could just look at a play and say that's a catch or that's not. And if the referee, as he did, decided it was not a catch, it was an interception, and then we can have our debate. But we are 106 years into the National Football League, and we are no closer to knowing what a catch is. And the rules that they throw on top of it and the expansion of video replay review just make it worse. Because it becomes more convoluted. They're trying to make something that is subjective, objective. And when you do that, you just further complicate the issue. So if you're asking me, not letter of the law, just what I saw. My eyeballs saw Brandon Cooks catch the ball. And Jaquan McMillan, after Brandon Cooks was on the ground, ripped it away from him. That, in my world, that should be a catch. But my world is not the NFL world. In the NFL world, it is not a catch. If you want to talk about how the rule needs to be changed, I'll be the first one to sign your petition. And it just, there's so many layers on top of that that made it so much worse. Like, why, if you have video replay review, why aren't you really taking a look at it? Why is it just New York going, we're good here, and moving on with the game? I saw Walt Anderson on NFL Network, the NFL spokesperson for officiating, say, oh, they want to move the game along. Oh, I'm sorry, do we have it? We got 4 football games left in the entire season, and we got to move it along? With people at the Broncos game got to get home before it gets dark? I understand, like, that's the same justification for hockey putting in the shootout. Like, I get it. 82 games, we got to move it along. Even during the regular season, that's fine. We don't need to take 20 minutes to review. When I'm on the broadcast for college basketball, I complain all the time about how long it takes to review a replay. Like, I get it during the regular season, but you know what? A lot of regular season stuff goes out the window. When you get into the postseason, these are the most important games. 2 teams' seasons are at stake. A man's job is at stake, clearly. You don't want to take the time, even if you come back and say, well, we didn't survive the ground. Why aren't you at least taking the time? And that's what makes this a bigger problem, is that you're like, oh, wait a minute. They're not going to sit here and review this? We're just going to move it along? We're going to let Gene Steratore, one of these completely useless rules analysts that we have on these broadcasts, we're just going to let him be the final word on all this? So we expand replay review and things get worse. And I've said it in every sport for years now, that we need to roll some of this back. We need to go back to the way it was, especially on extremely subjective calls like, what is a catch? And then you throw the rule on top of it. So there's just so much of a mess that the NFL has on its hands. And my guess, not to be a conspiracy theorist, but my guess is the Shield did not want there to be more discussion about this than there needed to be. Well, obviously that didn't work. But look, I get it. I don't like the rule. I think in live time it looked like a catch. I thought at video replay it looked like a catch, or what a catch should be. But the rule is on the books. And I always say with this stuff, if you don't like the rule, then let's have a conversation about the rule. That's fine. But there was no, they applied it correctly. They used it correctly. So in that, there's really no debate in terms of the officials, deciding the game. The pass interference penalty, as I mentioned again, it could have just been Joey Bosa's clear and obvious roughing the passer penalty. And the last one to set up the Broncos for the field goal, that absolutely was pass interference. So if you want to hate on the NFL rule book, then be my guest, because I'll join you. But that play was not why the Buffalo Bills lost the game, and they had every opportunity to win it. And Sean McDermott should Brandon Beane should follow Sean McDermott out the door. But I agree with the Buffalo Bills' decision today to fire him, because this isn't about Saturday. This is about the last few years. 719-247-1313. Was it a catch? Should have been a catch? Should we abolish the rule? I'm here for all that conversation, but that game was not decided because of that. Breen Corey rolled him from KKTV in to discuss. He was there on Saturday, so all the craziness with the Brandon Cooks play, but also with the news that came shortly after the game that Bo Nix broke his ankle and will not be available for what the Broncos hope to be 2 more football games this season. So much to get into from Saturday. 719-247-1313 is the number. Love to get your thoughts on it. We continue on this Monday edition of Drive Time Sports on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Broncos on to the AFC Championship, but we'll do it without the services of Lose Nix on Sunday. Joining me now to discuss what turned out to be quite the wild occasion and Empower Field at Mile High from KKTV. This is the incomparable Corey Roldan. What's up, buddy?
How are we doing today, my friend? How are we doing today? What a game on Saturday, and then what a mixed bag of emotions you got directly after the game.
Well, let's start there because obviously you go in places that most people can't go. So kind of set up the timeline and then also kind of the shift and how that locker room, how the basement of Empower Field, how did all that kind of go on Saturday?
So let's start with the Will Lutz kick. So I was right underneath the goalpost when Lutz kicks the game-winning kick. I run onto the field. Everyone's celebrating. Alex Singleton's fist pumping the crowd. I see Lose Nix walk up to Josh Allen. They shake hands, and Josh talks to Bo for about 30 seconds. He's saying something in his ear. I'm not sure what he's saying, but it seemed like a really good conversation and mutual respect for the two quarterbacks. Bo goes and does an interview with Tracy. I do not notice anything. I am not sitting there thinking, oh, this guy's out for the year. Credit to him, man. That's tough. That's tough. He wasn't like limping on it. He wasn't doing anything. You got to remember, too, he played two plays after that. One was the deep ball to Marvin Mims, which got the PI call. And then another one was the kneel down, which he was running and kneeling to set up the game-winning field goal on that broken ankle. Adrenaline. So then we go into the locker room, okay? We're in the locker room. Nobody in that locker room knew about Bo's injury or even thought Bo was hurt. We were talking to all the players about 5 turnovers with Josh Allen, about Bo stepping up. I was asking Evan Ingram, me and Evan Ingram were having a conversation about the confidence this football team has when they're down, when Lose Nix steps into that huddle and how he just lives for those kind of moments. I walk out to go start doing my shows, okay? Obviously, we had shows last night, and we had 10 o'clock. So I am talking about this being one of the best Broncos wins in 10 years. This was one of the best football games I've saw in a long time. Just beating Josh Allen. This team potentially can go make a run to Super Bowl, which they still can. I'm going to make sure I say that. Mm-hmm. In the middle of it, I get a message. Sean's going back to the podium. And I'm thinking, that's weird. Let me just continue this, and then maybe we'll see what happens after.
Wait, what did you think it was?
I had no clue, but I was literally in the middle of talking when that happened, so I wasn't going to leave. So then I 2 seconds in, we all know what happens, and I'm sitting there just staring into space like, okay, I got to redo everything I said. So everything that I talked about before doesn't matter because the big storyline is Lose Nix is out for the year. It was whiplash. It was, at first, you're like, man, does this team have a shot? Do they have a shot against the New England Patriots? And I credit to Bo, dude. Bo proved so many doubters wrong this year. They won 15 games. And that kid, as a second-year player, had so much criticism, by myself included, that he really did not care about it. And he came out each and every week and proved people wrong, especially in the biggest moments of the game. So you got to give credit. First, I was thinking you got to give credit to Lose Nix for being a franchise quarterback on the number 1 seed in the AFC and potentially could have led this team to a Super Bowl. And then I started thinking about Jared Stidham. And the first thought when I kind of separated the two was when he lost the job in 2024. When he lost the job, he said he feels like he's the starting quarterback in this league. And during in preseason, he was very efficient. He ran the offense very well. He was Sean Payton's first free agent signing. And if anyone is, Sean's not excited about Bo's injury. He loves Bo like a son. Okay, he loves Bo Nix, but Sean's kind of a psychopath in a way that he's like, he wants to prove he's smarter than every other coach. He wants to prove that he can win with anyone. He did it with Teddy Bridgewater in New Orleans. He did it with Jameis Winston in New Orleans. And now he wants to prove he can beat the Patriots with Jared Stidham. So I'm expecting a hell of a game plan from Sean Payton. And I'm expecting a Jared Stidham who wants to prove that he can be a starter in this league, and he gets his shot against the New England Patriots. Not saying they're going to win, but they're going to put up a really good fight, and this is going to be a really good game on Sunday.
Yeah,
there's all my thoughts.
Yeah, the first thing I saw a headline that said New England opened up as 4.5-point favorites. I'm like, oh, if you want to bet on the Broncos right now.
I saw 5.5 just now.
It's moved towards New England. Yeah, see, that's
5.5.
Yeah, I'm at the same place you are, and I'll expand on my thoughts later. But yeah, I think Sean Payton is going to have a good game plan with Jared Stidham. What's in doubt is the ultimate result. But the idea that New England's going to come into Empower Field and just run roughshod over the Denver Broncos,
with that defense,
yeah, I don't see it. I'm totally with you on that.
Drake May turns the ball over more than Josh Allen. So if you create some short fields and then you potentially get Dobbins back, which frees up RJ Harvey to do other things as well, that can open up the playbook more. Real quick, just their betting odds. The Broncos are plus 200 to 220 right now.
Yeah, see, I don't know if I'm going to go with them on the money line, but
I know.
But the line for New England being favored by that much, that was more than Buffalo was favored initially coming in.
Minus 1.5 Buffalo was.
Yeah. Corey rolled in my guess. Where were you standing or sitting when the Brandon Cooks play happened?
So I was shooting the game on the Bills, like it was coming towards me on the opposite side of the field. At first, when I first saw it, and before I could look at other angles of the play, I thought it was a tie ball, and I thought Brandon Cooks caught it. Then I started looking at the play, and it was like, okay, the refs got this right. And I am not a ref guy. Obviously, I'm a Saints fan, NOLA, no call. But the referees got this 100% right. And my 4:30, if you could take a break from Ryan and come watch KKTV at 4:30, I am fully explaining why they got this call right. So actually, I have the play right here. So as Cooks catches the football, you have to maintain possession through the ground. That's the key word. Maintain the possession through the ground. Just because the dude's knee touches the ground and he has the ball does not mean he maintains possession. It hasn't been that way when Dez caught it in Green Bay 2014. It wasn't that way when Calvin Johnson caught the ball, but really dropped it in the back corner of the end zone. So Cooks comes down, and you see McMillan. I don't know if I could show you this.
Well, I don't know. We may be.
Copyright.
KKTV on the. Yeah. No, but.
So like he catches the ball as he goes down. McMillan immediately pops the ball loose. If the ball hits the ground, it is an incomplete pass, Ryan. It is not a Brandon Cooks catch. But since it did not touch the ground and McMillan held on to it, he completed the process of the catch, and it was an interception. They reviewed it. They did review it, and because every turnover and touchdown is reviewed. Bills fans may not like how short of a time it is, but they saw this same angle that shows that Cooks did not maintain possession while hitting to the ground, and McMillan completed the process of the catch. There's an interception. Second note to that, one of the best plays I've seen from a defensive back this season, and it was the most memorable play the Broncos have made this season. McMillan is a short dog, okay? My man makes plays when it matters. You think against your Chiefs, he has 2 sack fumbles, right, against the Kansas City Chiefs that turned that game when they beat them at Empower Field. He makes plays when it matters. He's an undrafted chip on his shoulder, nickel back that absolutely makes plays when it matters.
But shouldn't it? And the argument I'm making, and people already I see on the text line are misunderstanding what I am saying. By the rule that is on the books, that was not a catch. Like, I get that. I understand that. I agree with that. But my point is, and it's a very difficult one. I know I'm trying to thread a needle here, but
So I know what you're about to say.
Shouldn't it be a catch? In an ideal world, shouldn't it be a catch? And shouldn't we put the Calvin Johnson rule, on trial here?
But here's the thing. Then every time a receiver falls to the ground and bobbles the football, it's a catch. That's the door you open up to. So when you see a toe drag on the sideline and the guy catches the football and he falls down, but the ball bobbles afterwards, then that's a catch if you're doing this.
But did Marvin Mims survive the ground?
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't see that replay. I saw it through the scope, but I cannot answer that question.
Yeah, well, but see, I think Marvin Mims was a catch. So I'm not trying to say, oh, look, they misapplied or whatever. I think that I don't like the Calvin Johnson rule. I didn't like it when Calvin Johnson was called for that. I didn't like it when it went against Des Bryant, and I don't like it when it goes against Brandon Cooks. However,
so the way you would do it is like the same thing as the ground can't cause a fumble, the ground cannot cause an incompletion.
Yes.
I'm just clarifying with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what, but it's also a different situation because McMillan ripped the ball away. You know what I mean? So, like, maybe there is room here for if you are not touched and you go to the ground.
How about Brandon Cooks just catches the football?
Well, that would help. Or better yet, and this was the point I was getting into in the first segment, how about Josh Allen doesn't carry the ball at the end of the half like a loaf of bread? How about,
also, the refs missed a call 2 plays before that when Josh Allen was in the end zone and DJ Jones got tackled by an offensive lineman, and it would have ended the first playoff game with the safety.
Right. And you're 100% right. And that's my bigger point here. Because people in the first segment are hearing what I'm saying and thinking that I'm not giving the Broncos credit and I'm saying that the Bills got screwed. And that's not what I'm saying at all. If we want to have a separate discussion about what should be a catch in the NFL, then I'm all for it. But to say that decided the football game it's just flat out wrong.
No.
So it's two different
it's also
conversations.
So there's so many plays, and that's why I love this game. I love this game because there's so many plays in that game that could have changed the outcome. I think back on the James Cook fumble, right? Alex Singleton, a guy who beat cancer, makes the play.
How awesome is that?
To change the game, because if the Bills go up 14-3, I mean, that's going to take a lot for the Broncos to come back. Instead, it's 7-3, and then Bo Nix in the offense scored a touchdown with Frank Crum, a tackle, catching the football and scoring. So that play changed the game. You mentioned Josh Allen right before the half. How about PJ Locke getting the interception right after Bo Nix throws a pick?
Mm-hmm.
That changed the game. Also, this offense could have, you get 5 turnovers and only score 16 points. That's not very good. And the Bills were on the field a lot longer than the Broncos were. So there's just so many ways you can look at this game and say, man, it's literally a game of inches. And that play shows it. It's a game of inches. And for some reason, though, for Bills fans, it's always the game of inches the other way. If you think about the Chiefs last year, that 4th and inches with Josh Allen, it's a game of inches with 13 seconds left. With
the overtime. And that's why I just said, like, how many rules have to be changed in order to get the Buffalo Bills to the
I also
the Super
don't
Bowl.
agree with firing your head coach that led you to 7 straight playoffs. Besides Tony Dungy getting fired and you're hiring Gruden, and they won the Super Bowl the year after, but they were done after that year of being really competitive, and Dungy goes to the Colts. Besides that, has there been a team that fired a coach that was really good and they got a coach that came in and all of a sudden they won a Super Bowl? Oh, never mind. Actually, no, I'm sorry. The Broncos did that. John Fox with Kubiak.
Oh, yeah. John Fox with Kubiak, and then you mentioned Gruden with Dungy's team.
Yeah.
Look,
more times than not,
it's a gamble. It's a gamble, and I said this with the Harbaugh thing, and the Tomlin thing. Like, it's a gamble, and you absolutely have to get it right. And why Brandon Beane doesn't follow Sean McDermott out the door, I have no idea why. But it's a gamble, but all you can do is make the best decision right now. And I think that the Bills...
Who do you go and get? Mike McDaniels?
Gruden was, you could argue, an upgrade. Kubiak, I don't think anybody was talking about that being an upgrade over John Fox.
I'm just sitting here thinking, like, what's a coach that is kind of bottoming
Tomlin.
out of that? Who?
Tomlin. This has to be about Mike Tomlin. This has to be the Bills saying, we can't wait another year. If we can move now.
What's the difference between the two? Tomlin hasn't done anything in 20 years.
I think the argument that they will make is that Mike Tomlin has taken far less talented teams than the Buffalo Bills are currently to heights that no one expected them to. So using that rationale, give him one of the best quarterbacks in the league, although he played far from it on Saturday. Yeah. Give him one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
He's still amazing. That guy is amazing to watch. The play, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the play that was incredible to me was the Keon Coleman drop pass in the end zone where Josh Allen, it was a holding call. It wouldn't have mattered either way, but Josh Allen rolls out, extends the play, throws off Jonathan Cooper, who's a man, and fires the ball in the back corner of the end zone to Keon Coleman, who drops the football. But watching that play, I was like, man, that's a bad man.
Isn't that funny? Taking the Broncos side out of this for a moment and just trying to take in the game. Like, Josh Allen, the Bills could have very easily won that game anyway. So, because of Josh Allen's brilliance, but it was Josh Allen's failures that put them in that position. Like, the duality of Josh Allen and the fact that he is good enough to compensate for those egregious mistakes. I'm not giving him credit. Like, overall, it was a net loss for him. He played extremely poorly, but there were moments where he was the Josh Allen that we thought we were going to get going into the game, and it kept Buffalo in it. It was just wild. The swings with him were as wild as anything in that football game.
100%. 100%. I was thinking, so like Vrabel was a guy last year that you felt like could obviously elevate a team.
Right.
Mike McCarthy. He has the same issues in the postseason, but he has the same issues as Tomlin.
Yeah.
He's a Super Bowl coach.
But, I mean, he's had...
What about Kevin O'Connell?
He had Rodgers. He has... I know everyone doesn't love Dak, but you had Dak and a plethora of offensive weapons.
So Gruden, you traded for Gruden. The Bucs traded for Gruden. What about if the Bills trade for Kevin O'Connell?
I like that. He's got to get himself away from JJ McCarthy as quickly as possible. I think that would be good, but the fact remains, you can agree with what the Bills did, or at least the McDermott. Why, again, Bean should have been out the door with him. But you can agree with the McDermott thing and also say, man, they better get it right.
100%.
Because at least with McDermott, you got to this point, right? And there's a non-zero chance that you're going to go backwards with the next guy. But, well, we shall see. But that's the Bills' problem. Up next for the Denver Broncos, the New England Patriots. As wild as this regular season has been, it's a little chalky in the playoffs, but around here we don't mind. Broncos, Pats on Sunday. KKTV, yes?
Oh, it's on 11 News. We're going to have a pregame show from 10 a.m. to 11 on Sunday, 6 to 6:30 on Thursday, giving you full content going inside the locker room. We're going to talk a lot about Stiddy. It's Stiddy time in
Stiddy.
Denver.
Stiddy time. All right, Corey. Appreciate you. Have fun on KKTV tonight.
We'll do. Broncos fans, Broncos country. On Sunday, get litty for Stiddy.
Oh, there you go. Print the shirt. Corey Roldan, KKTV 11, joining me here on Drive Time Sports. A lot there. We'll open it up 719-24-7-1313. The Brandon Cooks play, Josh Allen, the Bills fire McDermott, and of course, Bo Nix being injured. That's kind of where I want to go next. Not the Stidham of it all. We got time for that, but just how gutting that is for a guy that really deserved to see this season through. That's coming up next here on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Nikola Jokic voted an all-star starter today. I will get into that if we have time, because the Jamal Murray of it all. Nikola Jokic was never in doubt, but he was the leading vote getter in the West, and will make another all-star game. But the primary topic of conversation today, of course, is the Broncos win over the Bills and everything that comes along with it. There are so many different directions we could take the conversation, whether it's Bo Nix's injury, whether it's their chances with Jarrett Stidham, whether it's the Brandon Cooks play. I'm here for all of it. 719-247-1313. Ray Dominguez is in here producing the show today, and he has the text line in front of him, and he will get to your text right now. Go ahead, Ray. What do we got?
So from Alex, the Mims play was different. He made a football move and was technically a runner going into the end zone. By rule, Mims does not have to survive the ground. Cooks never made a football move and never became a runner, so the rule requires him to survive the ground. We are trying to compare apples to oranges there.
Okay. Fair enough. I'll concede that point. But again, my issue is with the rule. I'm just saying we're no closer to completely comprehending what a catch is in the NFL than we were 20 years ago.
Right.
And that's my frustration with all of this. All right, so maybe Mims isn't the perfect example. What about Calvin Johnson? What about Des Bryant? What about Devontae Adams just last night?
Yeah.
How is that? Somebody legitimately has to explain to me why Devontae Adams is a catch and Brandon Cooks isn't. Like, that's my issue. But again, it's not why the Buffalo Bills lost that football game.
Right. I think if there was more consistency.
I think that's probably what I'm
issue.
Searching for is consistency.
Yeah.
Yep. Next.
719. I agree with you on the Des Bryant play, especially versus the Packers and the NFC Championship game. Kind of ruined it for me. It was a great game until that point.
Mm-hmm.
And another one, 719. What does surviving the ground even mean? He didn't die. He survived the ground.
And that might be, I try to, talk like a college professor. That's just the way it needs to be. Like, we're saying surviving the ground, and what does that even mean? So let's not have it in the rules anymore. But again, I would like to make this as clear as I can right here and now. The rules were applied correctly. It was the correct call. But I am saying, is the rule, my question is the rule correct? Is that the way it should be? That's my question. It's not about that the Bills got hosed. I don't believe they did. I think there were so many self-inflicted wounds that they have only themselves to blame. And again, the fact that the Bills are firing Sean McDermott tells me that the organization agrees with me. Although when the owner puts out a statement and says that Sean McDermott did an admiral job instead of an admirable job, I wonder if that's the side of the aisle I should be on right now. But be that as it may, the Bills, and you could talk about the universe. Like, if you're not the better team, those calls don't go your way. Right? And the credit that you give the Denver Broncos is that I thought for 4 quarters they were in the game. Right? How many games have we had throughout the year where we're talking about the Broncos being the defense being bend don't break, the offense doing nothing, and then the fourth quarter rolls around and then Bo Nix is magical and we're all sitting here trying to figure out what the Broncos really are. What I can say unequivocally about that football game is I felt like the Broncos were in that game for all 4 quarters. Both sides of the football, all 3 phases of the game, if you want to include special teams, I thought contributed each of the 4 quarters. And that hasn't always been the case with the Denver Broncos. And that was a requirement of theirs in order to advance in these playoffs. That this stuff where you just wait till the fourth quarter, like we saw that with Tebow, it got them to a certain point, and then they went to Foxborough and they got absolutely embarrassed. And I'd be lying if I said that wasn't a fear of mine on behalf of you, the Broncos fan, is that when we were really in the midst of Bo Nix and all these, fourth quarter comebacks, that maybe it was going to blow up spectacularly in their faces at the worst possible time. And maybe Jacksonville was that time. And the timing of that is certainly way better than it happening on Saturday or this Sunday or 2 Sundays from now. I do think that the Broncos, I don't know, would I describe it as their best, game overall this season? No, because I still think they struggle to stop the run. I still think that Bo Nix wasn't great the entirety of the game, and maybe I'm looking for that Shangri-La that Sean Payton always talks about. Maybe that's what I'm trying to find with this Broncos team, but what I can say, and it is a compliment, is that for 4 quarters the Broncos were in that fight. Because if they weren't, they would have lost that football game. And they're going to have to be again this Sunday in order to get past the New England Patriots, and they're going to have to do it this Sunday without Bo Nix. The shocking news of his injury, Sean Payton speaks to his quarterback and why. You never want this to happen, but Sean Payton planned for it. You're listening to Drive Time Sports. Take your thoughts, 719-247-1313. If you're watching the show on social media, you can always also drop a comment while you are there at Extra Sports 1300 or at 740 KVR on Facebook, Instagram, and X as well. Back to talk about Bo and Stiddy next on 740 KVR and Extra Sports 1300.
Hey, Andrew, want to play a game? Sure.
Welcome in Drive Time Sports on a Monday, talking the Denver Broncos back to the AFC Championship for the first time in a decade. And guess who is coming to Mile High? Yeah, it's not Brady, but it's his team, the New England Patriots, on Sunday. You can hear that game on 740 KVOR at 1 o'clock on Sunday, and then the winner of that game will play the Seahawks and Rams winner. But talking about what happened on Saturday with the Denver Broncos, 719-247-1313 is the number you could call or text into the show. Ray is standing by to take your call, and then he's got the text line up as well. Where I would like to start this hour is with the buzzkill of all buzzkills. The Denver Broncos celebrating their biggest win in a decade. Having vanquished Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, and then you heard Corey Roldan, if you were listening in the first hour, describe the scene and him being alerted by the Broncos that Sean Payton was walking back to the podium. And then he announced that Bo Nix had broken a bone in his ankle and would miss both the AFC Championship, and there would be no hope of him playing for the Denver Broncos if they were to make it to the Super Bowl. And I just want to start there with how terrible that is for Bo Nix. All these fourth quarter comebacks, and look at what he did on the final drive of regulation. He deserved to be a part of this entire ride. And the fact that it's ending and now he has to pass it along to Jared Stidham to see this thing through, and you never know. The Broncos just beat a guy that I don't know if he's ever going to get to a Super Bowl. I don't know if Josh Allen's ever going to play in a Super Bowl. So the idea that this is the start of the Denver Broncos are going to go to this one and they're going to go back, you saw that 10 years ago. Right? There was a thought that, okay, they take a step back with Trevor Siemian, but they get back. And we're sitting here a decade later, and they're finally on the precipice of going to a Super Bowl again. So the idea that Bo Nix, there's going to be other opportunities. Yeah, I expect him to be in the playoffs again in the very near future, but you don't know if you're ever going to get another shot like this on your home field with a chance to go to the Super Bowl and then to play in the Super Bowl. Dan Marino, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, the list is long of quarterbacks that, with all due respect, are more talented than Bo Nix that never even got there. So who knows what the future holds for Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. So it just, and that realization just makes it even more sad, really, that Bo Nix did that. And you wouldn't know it. Like, none of us knew it. He walked up to Tracy Wolfson, and not a single person watching that interview thought anything was wrong with Bo Nix. I see a lot of Twitter journalists going back after the fact and say, oh, when he touched his hair or whatever, that was, you didn't know at the time. Because Bo Nix wasn't going to make that about him and go, well, Tracy, I hate to correct you, my ankle's broken and I'm not going to be playing. And I'm sad for myself. I don't really care what happens to the team. You know what I mean? I'm going off the rails, but you get what I'm saying. Like, you wouldn't even know it, that anything was wrong with it. You wouldn't know it on the field. He broke his ankle, and then he threw the pass to Mims that forced the pass interference that set the Broncos up for the game-winning field goal. Just brutal. And if there's anybody outside of Sean Payton who deserves to be a part of this ride to a Super Bowl, it's Bo Nix, because he has been integral. As much as we go back and forth on how good he is, the fact of the matter is he has contributed to the Broncos winning enough that they're one step away from the Super Bowl. But I'll let Sean Payton tell you how he feels about the idea of going to Jared Stidham in the AFC Championship game.
The city's ready. I said this at the beginning of the season. I feel like I've got a two that's capable of starting for a handful of number of teams, and I know he feels the same way. So, watch out. Just watch.
I don't think he wanted to say watch out. I think he just wanted to say watch, to try it. And now it's watch out. So don't think that quote's not going to circulate around all week. And I think it will make its way to Foxborough at some point. But you can say what Sean Payton said there is just, putting on a brave face. What else is he supposed to say? But really look at the circumstances of why Jared Stidham is on this team and what has happened with Jared Stidham since he arrived in Denver. The Denver Broncos, when Sean Payton showed up, he got all the offensive and defensive linemen, and those were the big things. One of his first moves was signing Jared Stidham. He took out a very expensive life insurance policy. At the time, it was for Russell Wilson, who I got to imagine Sean Payton had his doubts about. And he said, if this doesn't work, because I didn't come here to rebuild the Broncos and check with me in 5 years. Okay, so if I can't make it work with Russell Wilson, or if I am and he gets hurt, I want to be able to go to somebody that I trust, that can run my offense, and that we can still win games with. That's what he said. By making Jared Stidham one of the highest compensated backups in the league. Now I think he's third behind Marcus Mariota and Jacoby Brissett. And I believe Brissett just signed his new deal like a year ago. And then, I don't know if the thought was always we're going to draft a quarterback. I feel like pretty early on in Sean Payton's tenure with Russell Wilson, he's like, this isn't my guy. And what other direction are you going to go? They were going to look at the draft. And I think that some part of Sean Payton was like, look, if something goes wrong with Bo Nix, I'm comfortable with starting Jared Stidham. It was just that Bo Nix was ready to go. And you watched that preseason just like I did. Was there anything about Bo Nix where you're like, yeah, no, maybe wait? Guy played like 75 college games. He's ready to go. But Jared Stidham could be the quarterback of this team and do a lot of the same things Bo Nix does. As a passer, maybe you don't get the downfield throws quite as much, but I think Jared Stidham at this point in his career is a little bit better at handling, for instance, the type of defense the Bills threw at Bo Nix on Sunday. Because Bo Nix, again, was a hero towards the end of the game, but look at the game in its totality. I don't think it was even close to Bo Nix's finest performance for 4 quarters. I think there's going to be, especially in the short and intermediate game, I think there's going to be no drop-off, at the very least, if not marginal improvement when it comes to that. So, and Sean Payton has done this before, right? Taysom Hill, Teddy Bridgewater, Jameis Winston. At this point, you got to trust Sean Payton's judgment when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks, and you got to trust Sean Payton's ability to get a quarterback ready, even with 1 week's notice. Jared Stidham can run this offense, and when I saw that the Patriots were 4.5-point favorites, I told anybody within earshot, not that I should be doing this because it's not my money, but I bet on the Broncos plus the points. Jared Stidham's going to keep them in this game on Sunday. The one part of it that I would be worried about if I'm a Broncos fan is if this game on Sunday comes down to the wire and you need some of those heroics, is a guy that is a backup, but not only the backup, hasn't played at all this year, going to be able to recreate what they get with Bo Nix in those situations. For 3.5, 3 3/4 quarters on Sunday, I think Jared Stidham's going to do well enough. And if you didn't know that Bo Nix wasn't playing and was their starting quarterback, I don't know if you just dropped in and watched on Sunday for most of that game. I don't know that you would think that Jared Stidham was not the best quarterback that the Broncos have on their roster. But part of the Broncos' identity, what this season has been, are those improbable comebacks, that fourth quarter magic. Does Jared Stidham have that in him? I legitimately do not know. I'm not saying he doesn't, but I don't know how you can say he does. So your rooting interest for Sunday is as follows. Broncos get off to an early lead. They pressure the heck out of Drake May into forcing turnovers. And the game in the fourth quarter, it's the Patriots and Drake May who are having to go on that final 2-minute drive. It's Drake May who has to be the hero. I think what the best thing that the Broncos can do on Sunday for Jared Stidham, don't ask him to be the hero. You've asked Bo Nix to be the hero, and to his credit, he's been able to rise to the occasion. You cannot ask Jared Stidham to be that. Ask him to run Sean Payne's offense. He'll be great at that. Ask him to take advantage of short fields because you intercepted Drake May or forced a fumble. He can do that. But the worst place that the Broncos can put him in is exactly the place Bo Nix was in on Saturday. And as confident as Sean Payton might be in Jared Stidham, I don't think he even can fully believe, based on evidence, that Jared Stidham is capable in that moment. So the best thing for the Broncos to do is not get into that moment. And there could be a reinforcement on the way to help that. We will talk about the potential return of J.K. Dobbins. But for now, I'll take your thoughts, 719-247-1313. Your confidence level with Jared Stidham leading the Denver Broncos against the Patriots on Sunday as opposed to Bo Nix, and anything else, that wild football game on Saturday that you want to discuss. I am here for it. 719-247-1313. More Drive Time Sports next on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. Reaction Monday to the Denver Broncos beating the Buffalo Bills to advance to their first AFC championship in a decade. They will face the same team they played back then, the New England Patriots. Of course, both of these teams quite different, and we will get into all of that as the week progresses. But because it's a Reaction Monday, want your reaction to what happened on Saturday. 719-24-7. 1313. Ray Dominguez, producer extraordinaire. What have we got on the text line right now?
All right. 719.
Hang on. I got put on your mic. Now go.
Okay.
I'm not as good of a producer as you are.
From the 719. I don't get how Broncos fans aren't worried about having Stidham as quarterback. They must not think Nix is very good then. Stidham is a career backup for a reason.
Yeah, has that person texted in about how not good Bo Nix is? Because I feel like that sounds like a text from somebody who has long held beliefs that Bo Nix isn't very good. I don't think it's about that Bo Nix. Broncos fans don't think Bo Nix is any good. I think what this is Wedgwood and Blackwood for the Colorado Avalanche. I think there is, until now, it's become a little bit more muddled, but before it was clear that Mackenzie Blackwood was their number one goalkeeper, but they felt pretty good about Scott Wedgwood. It's the same thing here. And if you want to say, and I'll say Mackenzie Blackwood isn't one of the best goalies in the league, just like Bo Nix isn't one of the best quarterbacks. So if you want to phrase it as harshly as you are phrasing it, go right ahead, but you're not totally off. The idea is that Bo Nix is not Josh Allen. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not one of these upper echelon QBs that you can't live without. And yeah, that comes off as an indictment of Bo Nix, but we've been having this conversation about Bo Nix all year. He's not one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So he is easy. The example I always bring up is best case scenario for Bo Nix, he becomes Brock Purdy. Okay, Brock Purdy, the 49ers got to a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy. The 49ers also were able to get by on numerous occasions without Brock Purdy just this season. It's the same premise, and that's why I say that, yes, Jared Stidham can run Sean Payton's offense, and in certain facets of the game, I think Jared Stidham might actually look better than Bo Nix does at times. But I don't think anyone is saying that the better of the two quarterbacks is playing on Sunday. I just think the separation between Bo Nix and Jared Stidham is not as great as if you were the Bills having to replace Josh Allen. But my biggest worry on behalf of Broncos fans, the thing that I know that Bo Nix does maybe better than anything else, running is another thing, but those late game situations where Bo Nix seems to be at his best, I don't know if a guy, forget how good Jared Stidham is, he hasn't thrown a pass all year, and he's going to step into that environment in the AFC Championship and drive down the field in the last 2 minutes to beat the New England Patriots. I don't think he can do that. So there are concerns. Broncos fans should have a level of concern. But this idea that all is lost because Bo Nix is hurt, I don't believe that. And maybe if you want to take it as I don't think Bo Nix is that good, well, welcome to Drive Time Sports. I've been talking about the flaws of Bo Nix all season. I don't think it's going to be a precipitous drop-off, but I do worry about those clutch moments and whether Jared Stidham can, to put it one way, come off the bench cold and be able to deliver a Broncos win. So the best thing is be ahead. That's my message to the Denver Broncos going into Sunday. Next.
All right. From the 719, never leave the decision of the outcome of the game to the refs. Take care of business. It wasn't the Bills' favored to win. Weren't the Bills favored to win?
Mm-hmm.
Remember the holding play in the end zone before the controversial catch was called that both game announcers called out? So
Mhm.
that's karma.
Yeah. And that's the point that I've been driving at is one of my most consistent takes I have is I don't think you should blame the officials for losing a football game. The football game is too long. There are too many other moments that could have decided the game. We get so beholden to the last thing that happens or the most controversial thing that happens. And it's like, what about the other 4 turnovers that the Buffalo Bills had? And yeah, and I don't like the get into the whataboutism when it comes to the officiating, but exactly, you could find an equal and opposite call going against the other team. There's no fix-in. There are no favoritism involved with any of these. But the DJ Jones thing, at the very least, does meet the requirement based on the rules of being a hold. So, but I think the texter makes a great point because it's just, I hate the conversation about the officials because I don't think they decide nearly the amount of games that fans think they decide. And the Buffalo Bills had ample opportunity before and even after that play to still win that football game, and they failed. And their coach is fired today because of it. So I don't want to go back and forth with the coach. Yeah, Riley Moss probably should have been called for pass interference. The Bills guy probably shouldn't have been called for pass interference, not the one that on Marvin Mims at the very end, but like, we can do this all day. I don't want to. And I think that game was not decided because of any call the officials made. Not one. It was decided because of how the Buffalo Bills again came up short on the biggest of stages and how the Denver Broncos put together a performance in which all 4 quarters they were in it, they were making plays, they were engaged. They didn't just wait till the fourth quarter, even though the game came down to the fourth quarter. They did not wait for the fourth quarter to make something happen because they knew they couldn't. They knew that in the postseason they couldn't do that. And to their credit, they didn't. And they constantly put pressure on the Buffalo Bills. And this has also been a staple of the Denver Broncos and something you and I talk about on a at least weekly, if not daily basis. The entire premise of the way Sean Payton has his team prepared is that we're not going to screw up. You are. And boy, did Buffalo screw up time and time and time again. So the win on Saturday was actually quite in character for the Denver Broncos. It's just that it was now 4 quarters of them putting pressure and being more disciplined and taking care of the football, and their opponent not being able to do that. 719-247-1313. Is that what we got on the line right now? Cool. Oh, you got one more?
Well, we have a response.
Okay, response.
Wedgwood could be a starting goalie for a lot of teams in the NHL.
Right.
Stidham will never be a starting quarterback. It is not the same comparison. If Nix and Stidham are comparable, then Nix is closer to a backup than a starter.
But they're in the AFC Championship with that backup call. We're at the point where you could call Bo Nix whatever you want. The Denver Broncos are in the AFC Championship. Like, when the day comes where they, not this year, but, next year or the year after, when Bo Nix gets another crack at this, because I think he'll get one more at least, and he comes up short, then we'll have this conversation again. But Call it what you want. The fact of the matter is there's not a huge difference between Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham. And I actually disagree. The idea that Wedgwood could start for a lot of teams and Jarrett Stidham couldn't. You did tell me Jarrett Stidham couldn't start for the Raiders, the Saints, the
Cardinals.
Thank you. The Browns. And I know I'm saying all these bad teams, but that's the whole premise of Bo Nix, is that he doesn't have to be an upper echelon quarterback for the Broncos to win because they have Sean Payton. They have that defense. So Jarrett Stidham could start for a good number of teams in the NFL. Is he taking them anywhere? No. But the good thing is he's got much more help around him with Denver than he would in these other places. Jarrett Stidham could be a starter in at least half a dozen NFL cities. At least half a dozen. But the question will be, is he capable of winning the biggest game in a decade for the Denver Broncos? The next biggest game in a decade for the Denver Broncos.
You just need to win 2.
Just need to. That's what Ray texted me on Sunday. He just needs to win 2.
That's it. Backups win 2 in a row all the time. It goes downhill from there, but backups, they win 2 in a row.
Nick Foles sent out maybe the best tweet in the history of tweets. Do you have that by chance?
No, but I actually remember it. Most of it. Basically saying, Broncos fans, I know it's an emotional time right now from the terrible news, but remember this. The New England Patriots have struggled against backup quarterbacks in championship games.
I would argue that there was a bigger drop-off between Carson Wentz and Nick Foles that year in terms of talent than Bo Nix to Jarrett Stidham. And if you want to take that as an indictment of Bo Nix, be my guest. But the question here is, can Jarrett Stidham lead the Broncos to a win? Is he so much worse than Bo Nix that he can't do it? And I don't think he's that much worse. I don't. And but look, there are also questions like this. We could play the alternate reality game, which I'm always a big fan of. Do you think that Bo Nix would have beaten the New England Patriots? Because if you don't think that Bo Nix could beat the New England Patriots, then fine. Jarrett Stidham's not going to beat them either. But I just think if you believe that the Broncos could beat the Patriots with Bo Nix, I think they can beat the Patriots with Jarrett Stidham.
The question you got to ask, can Sean Payton beat the New England Patriots?
That is really the crux of the whole thing, right? What Sean Payton has done. Do you trust Sean Payton? And I think, look, deep down, not saying he wanted this to happen or anything like that, but opportunities come up. You don't think Sean Payton is rubbing his hands together and like, now I have the chance at the AFC Championship to beat the number 2 seed with one of the best coaches in the league on the other sideline with my second quarterback? I think Sean Payton is going to we talk about Jarrett Stidham need to elevate his game, or the Broncos need. I think Sean Payton's going to elevate his game this week because of this circumstance. 719-247-1313. Keep the texts and phone calls rolling. We'll continue discussing the Broncos, one step away from a Super Bowl, which you can hear here on 740 KVOR and also Extra Sports 1300. Broncos on to the AFC Championship to take on the New England Patriots, but there's one catch. They will do it without Bo Nix, who broke a bone in his ankle in the second to last play that he was on the field on Saturday. And now Jared Stidham will be the starter for the Broncos Sunday. And as Broncos fans hope, beyond to Super Bowl 60, which you can hear on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. You could hear the AFC Championship on these two stations this Sunday as well. So Bo Nix out. Could J.K. Dobbins be in for Sunday? Now, the team took him off of IR, which is a procedural thing. They now have 21 days to decide that he is ready to go, although I guess there are about 21 days left in the NFL season, but it's merely procedural. Okay, so if you're a Broncos fan, don't get too excited about the fact that he was activated from IR. And you could just think back to Drake Greenlaw early on in the season to say why the celebration should be a bit muted if you are just looking at that. Now, J.K. Dobbins, because we also get our news from social media, put out a picture of him in the Broncos throwbacks, which, as an aside, can we agree? Can we just all right now get together and say Throwback Sunday? Not just for the Broncos, for the Patriots. Arguably two of the best throwbacks. The other one that would be in the mix would be the Buccaneers. Can we just do New England in their throwbacks, Denver in their throwbacks for the AFC Championship just this once, Roger Goodell, please? Because it would be spectacular. But J.K. Dobbins put a picture of him. What is it, Ray? Him running through the coming out of the tunnel in the.
Yeah, it's him coming out, like him coming through the tunnel, basically with smoke behind him, and then on the in the corner it says with the arrow facing backwards, so coming back, and it says soon under, so basically saying back soon.
Okay. I keep the celebration muted. That's what my advice to Broncos fans. And J.K. Dobbins is going to put that out there. Initially, it was said that he wouldn't be back unless the Broncos made the Super Bowl. That was the initial reporting. This is not the Super Bowl. So I would say temper your expectations. You're not going to hear a lot from Sean Payton during the week about it, but eventually we will hear. And there's only two games that NFL media needs to worry about. There will be people milling around trying to get intel all week. I don't think it will be Sunday. Oh, by the way, J.K. Dobbins is playing. I think that the news is going to come out before that. But what has happened in Instagram posts and him being activated off of IR, neither guarantees that he's going to be back on Sunday. Now, he's going to try everything he can to come back on Sunday. The Broncos are going to try everything they can to get him back for Sunday. But there is no guarantee right now. This is just the first step of a few steps that J.K. Dobbins needs to take in order to be ready. But it goes without saying that having J.K. Dobbins would be big for the Denver Broncos. And I want to give credit to R.J. Harvey. I think R.J. Harvey was thrust into the spotlight, and I think that he's played well. And he had that big, I guess it was technically a pass play, but it was basically him running it for 12 yards, breaking a couple of tackles. I think R.J. Harvey's been very good. But getting J.K. Dobbins back, it's kind of like the Stidham Bo Nix thing, right? If it was reversed, like let's say that Jared Stidham was the one that led the Broncos to a win on Saturday. And you would give credit to Jarrett Stidham, and you would like Jarrett Stidham, and you'd feel confident with Jarrett Stidham. But then if Bo Nix was coming back, you would want Bo Nix. It's the same thing here with the running backs. Perhaps what RJ Harvey has shown is that he is more capable than you expected him to be, or I won't point at you. I'll say maybe he showed more than I expected him to once J.K. Dobbins got hurt. But if you ask me, can I get, and it's not even with, you know what, the Nix Stidham thing doesn't even apply that much because that's an either or. This is both. What if I told you you could have RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins? Not one or the other. But it's the idea of as much as you like what RJ Harvey has done, there is a better player at that position, and the Broncos, it would be good for them to get him back. And that is one aspect of the game that I will say from Saturday. I don't think that the Denver Broncos went far enough in their run game. I mean, overall, they ran the ball well, and they had to. And Bo Nix used his legs. But I think they could have had an even better running game. And who knows, maybe they would have had Josh Allen not given the Denver Broncos so many short fields over the course of the game. But I think it's even more important for them to be able to run the football against the New England Patriots. And if you could do it with J.K. Dobbins, who you also have to take into account that he's maybe not going to be at his very best. But hey, him for a few carries. Jaleel McLaughlin had a couple of nice runs on Saturday. With the work that RJ Harvey has done, it gives the Broncos a better chance to effectively run the football, which is going to be very important regardless of who the quarterback is. Because I'd be saying this if Bo Nix came out of Saturday's game unscathed. But it's maybe even more important with Jarrett Stidham, especially early in the game. Now, I can already see it. Now, first play from scrimmage is Jarrett Stidham going right over the top of the Patriots defense. Not saying it hits, but like remember last year with the Bills game? Where the Broncos took the ball to begin the game and then Bo Nix threw it over the top to Troy Franklin. Like I could see Sean Payton dialing up a similar play for Jarrett Stidham. Not guaranteeing it'll work, but just like the message that it sends. Like, yeah, if you think we're going to dink and dunk with this guy or we're scared to utilize him, no, we're not. Here comes a 30-yard bomb over the top of your head. But once the game gets settled, or we could take the first 15, the scripted plays, I think they should be a lot of run, and it would behoove the Denver Broncos for them to be a lot of runs and for them to be successful runs. I think they have to play this game with the lead. But J.K. Dobbins says back soon on social media, and the Denver Broncos have activated him off of IR. We'll monitor that, and we'll talk more about how he could impact this game, and as we start to dive more into the Patriot defense and the problems that they present. But I don't know if that's Bo Nix going out, J.K. Dobbins coming in is a net positive for the Denver Broncos, but for them, I'm sure it's nice to get somebody back as they're missing Bo Nix coming up on Sunday. 719-24-7, 1313. Can we talk for a moment about the throw that Caleb Williams made at the end of regulation against the LA Rams? I thought for sure the Bears were going to win that game. I mean, how many games do you remember a play like that and then the team that completes it doesn't win the game? Not many. That was crazy, that play. And it helped. And it was good that we got that game from the Bears and the Rams, because the 49ers Seahawks game was a joke. And then you had the Patriots and the Texans game. It was close. That's the best thing I could say for it. It wasn't a well-played football game. And I know the Rams and Bears was low scoring, but it was compelling most of the way through. And then for Caleb Williams to have that throw, it's unbelievable. And then just for the Rams to win it in overtime. I feel gutted for Bears fans. And we'll get into this topic and maybe talk about it from a football perspective. I would like to see the Rams come out. It's nothing against Seattle. And I've heard people on this radio station talking about this today. Stiddy versus Darnold, Super Bowl. Oh, and look, if you're a Seahawks fan, like, look, it's nothing against you or anything like that, but having a little bit of star power in Matthew Stafford would be nice out of that one. But I would have been good with the Bears as well. And I'm sure Broncos fans, forget the football side of it, just the historical side of it. I don't think they want to. Maybe they're putting on a brave face right now with Jarrett Stidham, and maybe they do overall feel confident. I don't know that they want to go into another Super Bowl facing the Seattle Seahawks, just like in perpetuity. I don't think they ever want to have that matchup again, because it brings back a lot of bad memories. But wouldn't that one of the big storylines that week? George Payton being responsible for both teams in the Super Bowl, right? Because he gave all that to Seattle in the Russell Wilson trade. And then perhaps a conversation about how these two teams both made themselves better off by deciding that Russell Wilson is washed. So I guess there are storylines with Seattle. I guess it would be an interesting week, wouldn't it? I guess I really wanted the Bears, if I really get down to it, especially after Caleb made that throw. Right. I mean, he looked like the only thing I was thinking watching him was like, this is what I used to watch Shedeur Sanders do at CU all the time. Or better yet, this is what I used to do on Madden all the time. Like, I'd never do a 3-step drop. I would turn and run backwards on Madden and then heave it down the field. This is why I don't win any Madden tournaments, or never have. But I mean, it was out of a video game. And I don't know if the Bears with that deserve to win. Of course, there was their own referee conversation going on when it comes to that game as well that I don't want to get into. But man, you make a play like that, I kind of feel like you deserve to win the football game, but go talk to DJ Moore about that. So it'll be Seattle and LA, which could be fun. The trilogy, as Mike Tirico put it last night. That last time Rams and Seahawks played, that was a great game. And again, it's not that Seattle can't deliver a compelling product. In fact, they've played some of the best football of anybody in this postseason. Just, it's the game's biggest stage. I'd like a bigger star than Sam Darnold and Jarrett Stidham. But that might very well be what we get. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts. We'll reset things with the three stories that are driving the show. Also, news today when it comes to the Denver Nuggets and the All-Star game, and anything else we may have missed in the midst of our Broncos conversation. That's all coming up here on 740 KVOR in Extra Sports 1300. Hello there. Welcome in. Hour 3 on this Monday. The Broncos are heading to the AFC Championship, although I probably shouldn't have said that because that's one of the stories that are driving the show. You probably already knew that anyway, but for theatrical purposes, I probably should have waited. But they did, and that's what we're talking about most of all today. And your thoughts are very much welcome at 719-247-1313. Shouts to you, those of you watching the show on our social media platforms, whether it be Extra Sports 1300s platforms or 740 KVOR's platforms, because we are available on all of them: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. So just like, subscribe, follow, do all the things that we do with the social media accounts. And while you're there, drop a comment, and I'll get to them over the course of the hour. So without further ado, and with me spoiling the first story, here are the 3 stories momentarily that are going to be driving the show. Wait for it. Now they are. All right, we start here with story number 1. All 3 of these stories have a theme. See if you can catch on to it.
Here's the snap, the spot, the kick is up, it is good, and the Broncos win in overtime. Denver 33, Buffalo 30, and for the first time in a decade, the Denver Broncos are back in the AFC Championship game.
Westwood One Sports on the call. The Denver Broncos are through to the AFC Championship because they were in a game for 4 quarters. So often this season, the Denver Broncos had waited till the 4th quarter, and then they would come alive, and then they'd start to be making plays. They didn't wait on Sunday. They tried to take control of that game early on, and they made plays in all 4 quarters, which I believe was a requirement of theirs, that just waiting around to the 4th quarter rolls around and Bo Nix to pull a rabbit out of a hat, that was the Tebow years. That was a fake contender. They weren't real. If this team with Bo Nix is going to be real, they were going to have to show in a playoff game that they understand the assignment and they know that they got to be locked in and be making plays for all 4 quarters and overtime, as it were. And I thought that they did that. They did the thing that Sean Payton does with his teams in the 4th quarter. They did it for all 4 quarters. Was they put pressure on the Buffalo Bills and made them make mistakes. 5 turnovers in that game for the Buffalo Bills. You may not agree that all of them were turnovers, and we'll get to that in a minute, but that is way too high of a number for a team that is expecting to go to the AFC Championship. And a few of those you got to give. The Alex Singleton one where he just knocked the ball away from James Cook, that was a takeaway. We talk about the giveaways, takeaways. That was a takeaway. And that got the Broncos going. So the Broncos, I thought, leaned on the Buffalo Bills for 4 quarters. They put pressure on them for 4 quarters. And the Bills, for their part, weren't up to it. Josh Allen, this was a playoff game that you can say that Josh Allen was every bit the reason why the Buffalo Bills lost. All these other games, especially the ones to the Chiefs, it's like it's not Josh Allen's fault. It's not Josh Allen's fault. This one was as much as anybody. But because this was another disappointing finish to the season where his team looked the less prepared, Sean McDermott today got fired by the Buffalo Bills. It's not a knee-jerk reaction to just losing to the Denver Broncos. It's what Sean McDermott's tenure has been in Buffalo. All of these 2 years ago, road to the Super Bowl runs through Buffalo, they can't get it done. This year, not everyone, I suppose, I said it's right there for the Buffalo Bills. I don't care what seed they are. And they had every chance to win that game. The Broncos and the Bills, each. That game was up for grabs the entire time. And every time a team grabbed that game, it was the Denver Broncos. They outplayed the Buffalo Bills. And they are going to the AFC Championship because of it. Now they're not going to the AFC Championship without controversy, which is story number 2.
Allen in the gun, gets the snap. Blitz coming. Allen backpedals. He's looking. Has time. Going deep. Down the middle. Brandon Cooks is there. And he could not make the catch. And the pass is intercepted. It's picked off by Jaquan McMillan. What a play by McMillan to intercept it at the Denver 20-yard line. And the Bills turn it over for a 5th time in the game.
Westwood One again on the call was less of a hesitation from Ryan Radke there. He called it in live time. He paused for a moment, was a little unsure, but called Jaquan McMillan with the interception. And by the rule that is on the books, that was an interception. When he and Brandon Cooks went up for the ball, Jaquan McMillan came away with it because Brandon Cooks did not survive the ground. Okay, this is the Calvin Johnson rule. So there's no hosing of any kind going on here. The referees applied the rule correctly. But if you want to have a separate side conversation about how stupid this rule is and how without the surviving the ground thing that Brandon Cooks did meet the criteria for a catch, I'm here for that as well. But it didn't decide the game because of everything I just mentioned earlier. 4 of the other turnovers weren't as controversial. So the referees didn't get it wrong, and it didn't cost the Bills the game. But if you're asking me if I like the fact that by rule that's an interception, I don't like by rule that's an interception. I don't. And I don't like so many more things about that. The fact that they didn't seem to take a lot of time to review it when it was such a massive call. And the fact that the things that I think should constitute a catch were clearly shown on video replay. But again, not against the rules. So if you want to talk about the Calvin Johnson rule and want to talk about that catch against the Bears, I believe it was, and Des Bryant against the Packers and Brandon Cooks, how they should all be catches, I'm here for it. I am. I'm here for it. I don't think that it's the right rule, and I think we're making something that should be just subjective, and you know it when you see it, and we have tried to make it objective, and we have further convoluted it, and Joe Burrow has to take to social media to say he doesn't understand how people don't know what a catch is. Like, excuse me, Joe Burrow, but the NFL did this. Okay, and also, you're a professional who is paid to, in some part, know the rules. So let's not quite get on your high horse and chastise people. The NFL has made it so complicated in what is a catch that I understand that some people were a little bit confused by it. But that's why I'm here to say the guy survived the ground, and by rule, that was not a catch. And also, Joe Burrow You're not in the playoffs. The fans of the Broncos and the Bills are more in the playoffs than you are. So don't chastise people. I understand why people are confused. I understand why people are angry. But that's the rule that maybe needs to be looked at. But there is no doubt that the referees on the field made the correct call. It wasn't a technicality. It was the rule on the books, as unfortunate as it is. But to say that decided the game, or I hate how the referees impose themselves on the game, it wasn't any of that. They applied the rule correctly. You hate the rule? I'm with you. But it was the correct call. So we had a little bit of controversy and also a little bit of loss as well after the game.
The city's ready. I said this at the beginning of the season. I feel like I've got a two that's capable of starting for a handful of number of teams, and I know he feels the same way. So, watch out. Just watch.
Again, I can't get over that. Sean Payton said, "Watch out," and then in his mind immediately he's like, "I probably shouldn't say watch out, but watch." Bo Nix breaking a bone in his ankle on the second to last play he was out there. You wouldn't know it. Did the interview with Tracy Wolfson, didn't say anything about it. Sean Payton did his whole press conference, nothing. And then he had to come back to the podium afterwards and announce that Bo Nix broke a bone in his ankle and he's not going to play this weekend and he's not going to play in the Super Bowl. And first and foremost, I think you should have a lot of sympathy for Bo Nix, who has been a key part of the Denver Broncos getting to where they are currently right now. And the fact that with just one step away, one game away from playing in the Super Bowl, he doesn't get to finish out the season. That is absolutely brutal. And you feel for Bo Nix. But as maybe cold as it seems, time marches on. Next man up. Yeah, we have these sayings, especially in the game of football, where sympathy, there's not a lot of room for sympathy. The Patriots aren't going to say, hey, let's go ahead and pick up this game next year. All right, you get Bo Nix healthy, and then we'll play you. You got to keep going. And what Sean Payton says about Jarrett Stidham, I think he's right. Jarrett Stidham was a very expensive insurance policy that Sean Payton took out the moment he arrived in Denver. Because he could not bear the thought, if something were to happen to his quarterback, that he'd have to kind of slum it for the rest of the season and not be able to win football games. First, it was Russell Wilson that the insurance policy was taken out for. Now it's Bo Nix. Jarrett Stidham is one of the most highly compensated backups in the league for a reason. Because he can run Sean Payton's offense. Because Sean Payton believes that in a short term, and that's the thing, you talk about San Francisco without Brock Purdy. Like, they only had to survive for a little while. That's what we're talking about here. Yes, they're the biggest games of the year, and there are questions that go along with that. There's no doubt that Bo Nix is the number one quarterback on the Denver Broncos, but the drop-off between the talent of Nix and the talent of Jarrett Stidham, it's not that much. It really isn't. And if you want to take that as a slide on Bo Nix, go right ahead. It's not that I have been talking about Bo Nix being one of the best quarterbacks in the league all season. Sean Payton can get Jarrett Stidham to keep the Broncos in Sunday's game. What I wonder about, and what you as a Broncos fan should be a healthy amount of worried about, is that these are the biggest games of the season. This is the AFC Championship. Broncos trailing by 4 with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Is the belief in that huddle, looking at Jared Stidham, the same as it is when Bo Nix is in there? I don't know how it could be. All the comeback wins, all the fourth quarter heroics that Bo Nix has had this year, I don't know how the team, and it's human. It's not that they don't like Jared Stidham, but it's human to look at Jared Stidham and go, you're not Bo. Can we do this? And it will certainly test the resolve of this Denver Broncos team to be going with Jared Stidham. But in terms of, being able to beat zone coverage and be able to run Sean Payton's system, he can do that. I just think it is imperative that the Denver Broncos get off to a fast start and sustain it. Because I think Jared Stidham is going to play a very careful game. Because one thing you could say on Jared Stidham's behalf, I don't think Jared Stidham will put the ball in harm's way as much as Bo Nix does. But I also don't think that Jared Stidham is capable of just stepping onto the AFC Championship stage, needing to drive 75 yards for the game-winning touchdown and be able to do it, having not thrown a pass all season. In terms of talent and skill level, these two quarterbacks are not that much different. But in terms of moxie, in terms of that, whatever it is that we witnessed all season with Bo Nix seeming to be able to elevate his game when the game was on the line, when the team needed it to, I guess if I could simplify it, quarters 1 through 3, Jared Stidham should not worry you as a Broncos fan. Is there such a thing as fourth quarter Stiddy? I don't think there is. And the Broncos should put in the work necessary in the first 3 quarters to not make it come down to that. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the 3 stories that are driving the show. We have a national championship coming up tonight. If you didn't notice, Miami and Indiana. Talk about that, and also some all-star news regarding the Denver Nuggets and why the voting for the West All-Stars makes me believe even more that Jamal Murray will be heading to L.A. Here in a few weeks. In the meantime, again, take your thoughts, 719-247-1313. More Drive Time Sports after this on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. National championship game coming up at the bottom of the hour between Miami and Indiana. Here is my hot take. I just think that Indiana, like Ohio State last year, is that much better than everyone else. I think Miami, with their defense, has a chance to hang around and make it interesting, but ultimately, I just think Indiana is just too much. And maybe it's somewhat, dampen my enthusiasm, temper my enthusiasm for this game. I mean, I'll watch it, no doubt. Well, I have it up in the studio here and watch the rest when I get home. But I'd like to be proven wrong. Not that I'm against Indiana or anything. I'd love it to be a compelling matchup. The Miami defense, they're like Hodor in Game of Thrones. Like they're holding back the monsters, and it just, to me, feels like a matter of time. Like maybe it's going to start off well enough, and then the floodgates are just going to open. I think Indiana's that much better than everyone else in college football this year. And what a remarkable story. Like this isn't, it's a rare blend of like a dominant team, but also a very likable dominant team, right? Because Indiana, with no history whatsoever in football, and Kirk Cignetti comes in there, and Fernando Mendoza, I get it. He could be a little much at times, but I think he seems like a really good guy and enthusiastic. He reminds me a little Kirk Cousins-y. Like that's how I would describe him. And I know that that's not everybody's taste, and normally it's not mine, but I don't know. There's something endearing about Fernando Mendoza and this Indiana team as a whole. So either way, I'm good. It would be quite the story if Miami was able to beat them. And then if they did, maybe Carson Beck can retire. He was asked a question the other day about classes, and he's like, I graduated 2 years ago. College sports, ladies and gentlemen. And Carson Beck's fine, and he's a good quarterback, but in some ways he represents all that's wrong with the sport at this current moment in time. I don't blame him for taking advantage of it. I don't blame Diego Pavia. They're just trying to get their opportunity. Kids acting up in a store, you don't get mad at the kid, you get mad at the parents. And that's kind of where I'm at with college sports right now. But maybe Carson Beck can ride off to the sunset and retire as a national champion. Oh, yeah, he could go to the NFL after this, right? Never mind. So Indiana and Miami coming up at the bottom of the hour. No easy transition to this, other than to say that this is also news out of college. And given what I do for a living, I think I would be derelict in my duty if I did not at least bring this up on the show to be newsworthy and timely. On Saturday, Air Force announced that they were suspending head basketball coach Joe Scott indefinitely, and we're looking into his conduct with cadet athletes. That was released in a statement by the Air Force Academy, which is widely available. Anybody that came out and's like, oh, look at what's being reported. It wasn't reported. Air Force came out with this. That's where Jeff Goodman and all these college basketball insiders had it, was from the press release. I don't know any more than that. In fact, when the news came down, I was in Laramie, Wyoming with the women's basketball team. So I don't know what this is regarding. I will say two things on this topic. One, all of my interactions with Joe Scott have been great. I like him as a person. He has always been great to me when I've like filled in doing men's basketball games or the coaches show. But that's a different relationship than maybe a cadet athlete would have with him. So I can only speak to what professional relationship I have with Joe Scott and my interactions with him, which have been all great. Love talking basketball with him. And I'm not going to theorize what this is regarding or anything like that. That would be irresponsible given the gravity of this situation. I will just say, and anybody who's asked me about this has been my response in terms of a resolution to this. When it was the last time that somebody was suspended indefinitely and came back and coached? I don't recall. So if you're getting my thoughts on where this might be heading, history says it's going in a very specific direction. But we'll wait and see. I would expect this investigation and everything and to come to a resolution sooner rather than later. But just, obviously an unfortunate situation that something has risen to the point that it needs this type of action. Whatever it was. Again, I don't know. But the official word for the Air Force Academy, I believe Brent Brigham had something in the Gazette, a statement from Joe Scott saying he's fully cooperating with the investigation. So we'll see what comes of it. But Joe Scott suspended indefinitely as they investigate conduct with cadet athletes. And we'll see what the resolution might be. Air Force played a game that very day and lost to Nevada, and they turn around and play their in-state rival CSU tomorrow night in Fort Collins. Tough spot for a program that has fallen on hard times. It just makes it more difficult what's going on with that program. We'll take one last break, come back, want to talk about, end the show on a more positive note, but also basketball related, because Nikola Jokic is an all-star, and why I think that Jamal Murray is almost assured that he will follow. You're listening to Drive Time Sports on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. What a whirlwind it's been today and also over the weekend. I'd like to tomorrow and beyond kind of drill down into why it was that the Broncos actually beat the Buffalo Bills. Talked about a little bit, but with the Brandon Cooks play and the injury to Bo Nix, it's just like there's so much that we had to get to today, but that's why we got 5 days to do it. And then we'll start to look at New England and the challenge that they present to the Denver Broncos. And of course, this week it will be a lot of Jared Stidham and whether he's ready for this moment and capable of getting the Broncos to a Super Bowl and, dare I say, win one. We'll have to see. Other news today was that Nikola Jokic was named an All-Star again. Was the leading vote getter, which furthers my point that no longer does Nikola Jokic get disrespected. Everyone respects him. Media members, even on ESPN, and voters, and everyone knows who he is. So that fight, you don't have to fight it anymore, Nuggets fans. He gets all the respect that he deserves. But I've always said I don't really care about a guy making the All-Star game for the umpteenth time. And that applies to Nikola Jokic. Like, yes, he deserves to be the leading vote getter. Although, does he? Now that I'm thinking about it, he has been out for like a month. So I guess he probably actually, now that I'm saying it, I don't think he actually deserves it. Ray Dominguez, producer. Does he deserve to be? Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait a minute. Has he missed too much time to be the leading vote getter? Not to be a star, because who are you going to vote over him? Can you name, let's do it. Let's do this exercise. Can you name 5 players more deserving of Nikola Jokic, even though he has been out for the last 3 weeks?
The only player I can think of, I wouldn't say more deserving, but maybe as deserving, is Luka. And that's about it.
What about the guy in OKC?
No. Okay, that's kind of that's a bias. So, yeah, okay. So if he's not more than Jokic.
Mm-hmm.
He's deserving. Like, if we're going over, like, if there was anybody robbed or anything right now, it'd be Anthony Edwards.
Okay, who are the 5 starters? Luka,
Shea, Wemby, Victor Wembanyama, Steph, Jokic.
Yeah, Steph is playing on a team that his own teammate called mediocre.
And that's the problem with the fan voting.
Sure, but if you don't, and look, I've been on this. I get bothered by some of the decisions the fans vote. But if the fans aren't allowed to vote, then what are we doing here?
That's true.
Right? The All-Star game is for the fans. So if they want to see this player, that's fine.
Is it though? Lately it hasn't been.
Yeah. But I can't sit here and be apathetic about All-Star games and then get all bent out of shape when someone gets snubbed. I feel like that's me being hypocritical.
Right. But for the first time in 21 years, someone was not voted an all-star starter.
And therein lies why the fans actually deserve their credit.
Yeah.
Because now that I'm thinking about leading vote getter, maybe not with Nikola Jokic, but he deserves to be a starter. And you know what I care less about than who's named a starter? Who gets the highest amount of votes. So whatever. People want to see Nikola Jokic. He's respected. He deserves to be an all-star starter. It feels like it's been 3 months that he's been out. He's been out 3 weeks. He's played plenty of basketball. So I'm all right with all of that. Here's where the fans redeem themselves if you think that they just needed redeeming. They did not vote LeBron in.
Yes.
They did not give LeBron the, hey, this might be it, which is shocking. It's downright shocking to me that LeBron James was not voted an all-star.
I mean, we're seeing a shift. No, Kevin Durant wasn't in there either. We're seeing a major shift.
But The LeBron one, but the LeBron, as you know, the LeBron one is different because this might be it.
Right.
Kevin Durant, first of all, he's not super likable, but also we feel like we have more years left with Kevin Durant.
Right.
They put the patch on the jersey for LeBron James' season and everything.
Yeah, they did.
This might be it, and he didn't garner enough votes. Now, does he deserve to be an all-star starter? No, he doesn't. So good on the fans for recognizing. I see the Steph Anthony Edwards thing, but for the most part, they got it right. And putting in LeBron would be a big swing and a miss because not only has he missed time, but when he's been on the court, how much have we talked about other than is this it for LeBron? Has there been a lot of conversation about how LeBron is doing? Does anybody know how LeBron's doing?
Every time I see a story about LeBron, I always see a story about how the Lakers were up 20 points. LeBron comes in and all of a sudden it's a close game, or LeBron standing.
So it's not going well.
Or LeBron standing on the sidelines talking to the bench. And it's not going well if this is his last year.
Right. But fans always seem to do this. Mm-hmm. They always seem to say, I remember, Derek Jeter, Cal Ripken, who were, especially Ripken, was like way past his prime. And they're just like, well, we want Cal Ripken in the All-Star game. Same thing with Derek Jeter at the end of his career. So the fact that they didn't, even though he doesn't deserve to be an All-Star, but the fact that let's call them casuals, did not vote him in, not enough of them voted him in, I find to be very interesting. And that is why I think now more than I already did, Jamal Murray's got to be an all-star. Because you and I have done this exercise multiple times. The one roadblock that we keep running into when we're trying to figure out whether Jamal Murray is going to be one of the 12 Western Conference All-Stars is what do you do with LeBron? Not deserving of an All-Star,
right? But
he's LeBron. And if he were on the team, he would take a spot from, because I've never said that Jamal Murray, should be a starter or anything like that. Although the way he's played over the last few games, not last night. That was bad. But I just thought that ultimately LeBron James might take away a spot that could have gone to Jamal Murray. And now that he's not being voted in as a starter.
Right. And is it I don't know if it's a good sign or what 3 out of the 5 starters are guards? Am I correct? Steph, Shea, and Luka?
Right.
So is that a good sign for him?
Well, it would be a better sign if it was LeBron, KD, Wemby, Jokic, like it was all these big men.
Right, because then they more guards. Okay, I see what you're saying.
They have guards. I just think, look, he deserves to be an all-star. I've said that. The guy that I feel like could mess everything up is LeBron. And if he's not there, then I can't see a way that Jamal Murray is not an all-star.
Because the rest aren't fan, right? The rest is...
Yes, you're correct.
Right. The rest is media, or not media, just NBA.
Coaches and players and media.
Media.
Media get a vote in there?
I know media got some. Anyways. But and the thing about Jamal, too, it's not just a local narrative now. It's just not, from what I'm hearing, it's not a local, Jamal should be an all-star. Every time they're a national broadcast and he's on that court, I'm hearing from those reporters, Jamal could be it should be his all-star year.
Yeah, I think he should be, but you never know. And I don't care a lot about all-star games, but I will say that when a guy has not been an all-star, that's my one exception to the rule. When somebody is deserving of being an all-star and it would be their first time. I know Jamal Murray acts like he doesn't care, but he cares. He learns more from Nikola Jokic than people realize in terms of the way he deals with the media and shrugs off things that we feel like are very important just to act like they don't. it matters to him. He wants to be an all-star. How could you not?
A question with this year is the way they're doing it with World and
Mhm.
USA. Does that play a factor into it where they're like, okay, we kind of have to balance it out? And with 4 of the 5 starters being World.
Look, they made it up last year on the spot. They didn't make it up, but we all found out collectively that Donovan Mitchell's mother is not from America. We never knew this about Donovan Mitchell. It never once came up. No Tom Rinaldi story or anything. And then just to get him on the international team, they're like, oh, by the way, his mother is, I believe, Haitian. Again, they're not making it up, but how have we never heard this before?
Right.
Sounds like a convenient piece of trivia to pull out when you need somebody. That's going to be interesting to see. My guess is that would be more likely that they just be like, oh, yeah, by the way, this guy once visited Ireland on vacation, so now he's an international guy. I don't think that they're going to vote based on we need more international players.
I'm thinking they need more USA players.
Oh, okay. But either way, I'm saying I'm saying that I don't think that they'll take that into account. I think what they'll do is they'll pick who they think are the deserving remaining all-stars, and then they'll make up whatever nonsense they have to put them on the squad that they want to put them on. Is the way I think it would go.
Yeah.
But that would be a concern if they're like,
we need to balance it out.
So not the guards thing, but we already got all the international guys we need.
Yep.
So I think it's good news. I think it clears the last bit off of the path here for Jamal Murray to become an all-star. But look, you shouldn't need that to put Jamal Murray in the all-star game. It's just when there's somebody like LeBron who a lot of fans would want to see, and I don't blame them, that takes away the spot of a deserving all-star. And there was a time before Nikola Jokic's injury, I thought Jamal Murray could possibly be the odd man out. Not that I agreed with it, but it could have been him. Now I've been more confident that he's making the all-star game because of what he's been able to do with Nikola Jokic, and now the LeBron of it all is removed. Although it would be quite something if I wouldn't put past how they decide the coaches
I thought it was
best
top
record.
Seed.
They still do that?
I think so.
I actually think, couldn't they say, oh, well, LeBron deserves to be in this game because he's been in this game and he's everything to this league,
get like
blah,
one
blah,
pick.
blah, blah, blah. Well, the coach but I'm saying the coaches vote. Could the coaches be saying,
I'm sorry, I don't think so. Like, it's not just I don't think so. If you look at his year this year, it's not.
Well, I'm not saying he's deserving.
But I see what you're saying. Like, hey, guys, it's his last year. We got to do it. Because last year, when he didn't play in the All-Star game, I knew it wasn't going to be his last year because I'm like, you can't not play in your last All-Star game.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe. But still, him coming off the bench is crazy. He's been
he's
been a captain every other year.
Right. It's now to the point, and you bring up an even better point, is that he didn't even want to play last year. So why would you vote him in? It's going to the people that, to your point about the fans, should know better.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see. But Nuggets last night, by the way, awful. You missed nothing. They were absolutely terrible, and they got boat raced by the Charlotte Hornets of all teams.
It's funny how we made fun of OKC for getting boat raced by the Hornets.
What's this we stuff? It's you that are watching every Oklahoma City game, rooting for their demise.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, they lost to Charlotte, and then I watched that game like, oh, okay, so maybe Charlotte's not as bad.
Gotta grab my papers. Live radio. Yeah, so the Nuggets, they'll look to bounce back. Tomorrow night, by the way, what a coinky-dink.
Oh, yeah.
Nuggets play the Lakers tomorrow night, and you can hear it on Extra Sports 1300. So there is that. And there is also this. Guys, did you know that low testosterone can cause fatigue, lack of focus, and just this feeling off, right? Many men don't even realize it until they get tested. At Synergenics and Low T Center, the TRT test is free for a limited time. If your levels are low, they offer testosterone replacement therapy with real medication, not compounded hormones. And I didn't even know until Low T told me about. I had no idea there was the different real medication and not, but there is, and Low T is giving you the real stuff. And of course, expert care. Didn't know about that before. And ladies, if you want to go in and take a hormone test, it's now just $99, normally $299. So take control of your health today. Walk in or book an appointment at getmyhealthfix.com, Synergenics and Low T Center, where real results happen. Felt kind of chaotic today. Mondays usually do. So much to get into regarding the Denver Broncos. We'll start to transition a little bit more on the game on Saturday, but looking ahead to the AFC Championship on Sunday. It's the Broncos and Patriots, and you will be able to hear it this Sunday on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. In the meantime, I appreciate your patronage and the interaction. The conversation made it that much better, and I look forward to getting the same thing tomorrow, but I'll be in Las Vegas for women's basketball, but we'll still do it again tomorrow at 3 here on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR.